Lisa Schnebly Heidinger is celebrating Arizona with lots of interesting people, so you'll hear wonderful voices with new stories. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z, and we're off.
And welcome back to Celebrating Arizona. And I am so excited for all of you because you get to meet one of my favorite people,
Oh,
David McCumber.
hi.
Hi. We go back farther probably than either one of us wants to really think about.
Well, we go back quite a ways. I won't insult you by talking about just how far, but I was older than you were then, and I still am. So there you go.
A little bit, but yeah, I think either a baseball game that the Arizona Daily Star was playing,
Softball,
or
yeah.
the softball. You can tell I don't know, or the downtown bureau Christmas party.
Maybe both. Yeah.
Maybe both. Yeah, and back then you were just the city editor.
Well, I had just become the city editor. It's already my second tour at the Arizona Daily Star, and now I'm on number three. So,
I didn't realize that.
yeah, I was here for about a year and a half, and I was an assistant. I was a news editor or copy desk chief, I guess, and then I was an assistant city editor, and then I got a chance to go to Austin, Texas, to be the news editor at that paper, the American Statesman. And I was just a punk kid, and so
It was a
I
pretty
think I
pretty
was,
good gig for a punk, huh?
yeah, I think I was 26 or something like that. So I went, and I'd worked on a great story at the Star, and it was the story that won the Pulitzer for the Star, the Tony Mason investigation. And so I left right after it was over, and I went to Austin. And a year later, I walked into the newsroom in Austin, and they said, "Hey, your old paper won a Pulitzer." Well, I knew which story, and so I called Frank Johnson, the managing editor, to congratulate him. And he said, "Get your butt back here. I want to make you city editor." And I quit that day, and was back in Tucson in 2 weeks.
Oh.
And never regretted it. I missed the desert. I missed Tucson. I missed the Star, and it was just great to be back. So,
Oh, now was that when? So, listeners may have noticed that 50 some times now, the podcast on wherever you get your podcasts shows up with the coffee mug of the week. And today's is the original Arizona coffee mug, and part of that is because David.
well, we both have a love for the Arizona Inn. You were, I believe, married there, or renewed your vows there.
Good memory, yeah. The
Yeah,
silver, but
and
but I never
I
got to live nearby. Is that when
well,
you did?
I bought a house catty corner from the Arizona Inn when I was here the first time, and then I upped stakes and left for Austin and sold it. But I was, and now the house is no longer there. It was just a little one bedroom, one bath adobe, and it was very cool.
God, I bet that was. So, speaking of that,
Yeah.
what are some of what comprise your Arizona?
Oh boy. Well, I love every part of the West for different reasons, but Arizona has always been special to me. I came here in a period of renewal, the first time, and the second time, and the third time. So,
Boy,
um,
you are so new.
yeah, you know, I love the Tucson Mountains. Probably, if I had to pick one place in Arizona that speaks to me the loudest, it would probably be the Mountains, which is why I live there. I live out um, just off Picture Rocks, right near Saguaro National Park West, and I love that country, and
Okay.
just the wildlife and the vegetation, and everything about it. Just it's Arizona squared, you know.
Oh, and
So
I've probably said to you one of the fun facts that the four ranges surrounding Tucson rhyme no matter where you start.
no, I've never heard that.
Yeah,
That's
like
great.
Catalina, Rincon, Santa Rita, Tucson,
I love
or
it. That's
Tucson, Catalina. Yeah.
yeah. Very good.
What else in the state beguiles you?
Well, everything. I mean, I don't know, what I think of as your country, the Grand Canyon and the northern rim of the state and north rim of the canyon. I don't know that country nearly as well as I'd like to, but I've been absolutely in love with it every time I've been there. Um, then I covered the Navajo Nation years and years ago, working for a paper in New Mexico, and that took me into Navajo country in Arizona, and absolutely fell in love with that country, and still care about it, love it, and get there as often as I can. Um, and reading Ed Abbey, and knowing my friend Doug Peacock, the Cabeza Prieta, and that country is I went to see it because I had to see it, and I love it. So there's a lot of there's not very much Arizona I don't like. Maybe caught in rush hour traffic on I-10 between Phoenix and Tucson. That'd be about it.
And I think that Toltec, Eloy area
Yeah.
is one of the two wickedest in storms.
Oh
I've been in
yeah.
some horrible storms there, and then
I've
the
been in
other,
a couple. Yeah.
yeah, it's and then on 17 Munns Park area is the similar
Oh,
kind of,
yeah.
and I don't know why, but
And yeah, well, our haboob of this year went through that country, uh, you know, between Eloy and Phoenix. Oh man, that was something to see.
I didn't even I missed that.
Yeah, it was a big one.
I'm still not used to that. I still like monsoon, but I guess that dates me, doesn't it?
Well, no, monsoon's a monsoon, but a haboob is a dust storm. So
Okay.
I
Some
guess
people up here want us to call anything a haboob instead of a monsoon, and I
no, no,
uh,
no.
good.
It was funny because the editor of the Star, when I was here before, insisted that our monsoons were not monsoons, but chubascos. That was he thought he had the semantics figured out. He thought, or the etymology figured out, but he was wrong. As far as everybody's usage is concerned, and as far as I'm concerned, everybody else is right. So a monsoon is a monsoon, and boy, I love them.
Yeah, me too. Good, good. I
It,
wonder
it's
when.
it's so different. I have to say, when I was here 40 years ago, nobody had central air in Tucson. Everybody had a swamp cooler, and
Oh,
the swamp coolers
interesting.
worked great except during monsoon season when it was humid, and then everybody just sweat for a month. I mean, it was just, oh boy, it was that was the only downside. You love the storms, you love the way they smelled, you love getting the rain, but it was hard with no evaporative cooling happening.
Not pleasant. And then when I lived in Flag, what 89, 90, 91, nobody up there has air conditioning, of course, because generally,
Sure.
I mean, new places I suppose did, but that was the year it hit 120 in Phoenix, and we were miserable, and some of us were miserable in Flag because it was in the mid 90s,
Oh,
and not that Phoenix was, the station wasn't sympathetic, but both Tucson then and Flagstaff, whenever had charms too, still do.
yes,
Maybe
yes.
not the same charms, but charms. Um, Talk about what you have done in Arizona, what what you've written, what you've seen. Navajo Reservation you started with.
Yeah. Well, you know, I spent the 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 most lengthy time at the Arizona Daily Star when I was city editor and then assistant managing editor. I'm not what I wrote, but I'm really proud of what the staff wrote, what we got accomplished in that time. I mean, you know, prizes are great. We won a Pulitzer and we had two finals in 5 years, and you know, we had, you know, a bunch of others, but it wasn't the prizes. It was the effect on the community, the impact. I wrote a column that ran today in the Star about Jane Kay and the TCE investigation, which was 40 years ago this year, and
Wow.
just last month, the Museum of Contemporary Art, which has a wonderful exhibition about the environmental justice movement that sprung up after Jane's stories, and you know, as the TCE problem became widespread on the South Side. Uh, they had a program, and Jane came from San Francisco and spoke, and um, it was just inspiring all over again to hear her talk about that. So
Oh.
I did write a piece about. I'm writing a series of stories about, you know, accomplishments of the Star and contributions to the community the Star has made in its 140 plus years, and
I didn't realize it
and
was that far back.
and that was yeah, and I you know, I'm only half that old, you know.
Now, I hope that you put our mutual friend Steve Meisner's Orm Dam. Has
Well,
that
it's
gotten a
certainly
mention?
certainly something that needs to be, yes, it needs to be celebrated. I've got I've only done two of them so far, and I've got another dozen to do. So, you know, I'm
Oh.
hoping I get there for sure.
Let's take a quick break, and then I want to talk some more about that. Another site on the Arizona 250 passport to visit is the Hall of Flame in downtown Phoenix, where the Hall of Heroes honors the 19 granite mountain hotshots who lost their lives in Yarnell, reaching back through Arizona history. Explore a wide variety of firefighter trucks and equipment from around the state. That includes a steam-powered, horse-drawn pumper from Globe, among others. Inspiring. This site celebrates courage and enduring spirit. So, some of the things you're writing about include contributions. Any others that particularly stand out to you?
Well, you know, we can't have all of them be, you know, in that particular time period, but I have to say that I'm going to go, if as long as he allows me to do so, and he has told me that he will, I'm going to go interview Ray Ring, who is a
Oh.
magnificent journalist and writer and still lives in Tucson. Um, I'm going to go interview Ray about the time I put him in prison. Um, he, the Star wanted to do an extensive look at Arizona's correction system and the problems therein, and we wanted to cover, you know, the everything, and did ultimately, from probation and parole system to judges being handcuffed by mandatory sentencing to lack of resources to any number of angles. But the conditions the prisoners lived with and the conditions the guards dealt with, we thought were important.
Oh.
And Arizona at that time had a young and pioneering corrections director, a guy named Ellis McDougall, who
Madam.
wanted to shake things up and wanted to do things, wanted to publicize what the system needed. And so we said, well, we'd like to help you do that, but we can't do it just from the outside. So we took the extraordinary step, and I defend it from an ethical standpoint to this day, that we took a double step. We had reporter, John Long, answer a classified ad and apply to work as a prison guard. And he got
Oh
hired.
my gosh.
He got hired and he went to work at Fort Grant. And at the same time, with Ellis McDougall's assistance, we put Ray Ring into Florence with the jacket of a first-degree murderer.
Holy smoke.
And Ray going to be in there 2 weeks, and we pulled him out after 10 days because the Aryan Brotherhood tossed him down a stairwell because they didn't like him talking to a black guy in the kitchen.
Oh my God.
But he wrote an amazing story, a story that told more about what the prison system was like than anything we could have ever done any other way.
Wow.
And John Long wrote a great story about being a guard. And
wow.
those were the spine of a 48-page report that we put out. We wouldn't do it the same way today. But back then there was no internet. We put the whole thing out in one in a tab section, a 48-page section, one day. It ran one day in the paper, and we put a copy on the desk of everybody in the legislature. And we felt like we moved the needle a little bit, although you look at the correction system today that suffers from many of the same problems and you wonder. But nonetheless, it was something that needed to be done. We did it, and we did it in an unconventional way. And Ray Ring is a courageous and amazing reporter. And so I want to
marvelous. Oh, I'm so glad. He spoke, as you may remember, I was way below his level when you were in Tucson. I was at the Green Valley News, which I loved, but it was not running in the same circles. Well, but he spoke to Steve Emmerein's magazine class when I was at the U of A in journalism. And I remember him saying, and I should know still the exact words I used to, but basically it was, if you write accurately about somebody, even the parts that aren't flattering, they're okay with.
That's right.
Just be accurate.
Yeah.
And I thought, interesting. And before we leave the subject, I wonder if you remember the Bonsai Bob. He was an inmate in Florence for some time.
Yeah.
And I never interviewed him or knew him, but fast forward a ton of years, and Steve Meisner, who was PIO then for the juvenile corrections, was able to get me in because I wanted to work with the young women in the system. I had seen some movie about kids in the system and gone for a drink with Tom afterwards and said, I want to help them. And he said, well, rise a baby. When he's in kindergarten, do whatever you want. So Meisner was in a place to help me. And I had a group of young women that I worked with once a week. Technically, it was journaling, but it was everything. And they were wonderful, fascinating people. And one of them I found out, and was a little alert, but it was fine, was not only HIV positive, but was Bonsai Bob's niece. And I found that out because she wrote, one of her submissions to me was about the fact that when she was in first grade, she got mad at some kid and she drove a pencil into the back of his hand. And only then found out that was how her uncle had begun, was driving. And it made her think, oh my gosh, are genetics more than I can beat? Wow. Is it too late for me?
Wow.
And it was a fascinating piece. Yeah.
Wow. It sounds wonderful. Well, it's funny you mentioned Steve Emery. I worked with him at the Star, and when I was a city editor, he was an assistant city editor, and I tossed him a copy of the memo that I wrote proposing this prison series, and he wrote back with typical puckish Emerine fashion. He wrote back and said, David, surely you're not going to toss off a major project like this with only 53 stories.
What a great guy.
There was a little steel behind that because Steve was responsible for getting the daily report out of the reporters and making sure that we had enough to fill the metro section every day, and taking reporters out for extended times on projects didn't help him in that regard. And in every newsroom I've ever been in, there has been that push-pull between project work and daily work. I mean, and it's just something
And
you
that's
have to
good.
manage.
I
It
mean, yeah,
is good.
both sides are advocating for their area.
And I've worked for some really small newspapers and some big ones. And the secret is that you do it the same no matter what size your staff is. What happens is if somebody gets put on a project, everybody else has their back. People,
Oh.
sometimes in a metro newsroom, you'll have a pod of reporters that all have similar beats, so they're sort of close to each other. And maybe you have a government pod, and so you pull off a reporter to work on a project, and then the others in that pod, you know, watch that person's beat and make up for their absence. Well, it's the same thing on a small staff. If you've only got 4 reporters, you do the same thing, and and
Interesting.
and it works. Sometimes you have to go a little slower, but it works. And any size paper has the ability, or news staff, I shouldn't say paper anymore. Any size news staff has the ability to do distinguished investigative and narrative work. They just
Which
it's a
reminds
way
me
to.
of your daughter, but let's take a quick break because I want to talk about that, and then I still want to talk about some other aspects of things.
Okay.
Another treasure on the 250 Passport is Arizona Stronghold Vineyards in Camp Verde, the largest family-owned winery in the state. Grapes grown here are used exclusively, where they take pride in being pioneers and farmers first. They make European-style wines, which they say showcase the wild and fierce regions harvested. They also supply tasting rooms at Old Town Cottonwood and Scottsdale. So, city editor, and today, sir, you
Oh,
are.
well, I'm the executive editor at the Star, the news leader for Tucson.com and the Star, and this is Tucson.com. It's a lot different. I remember when I was city editor, I was less than pleased because I only had 35 reporters on the metro staff to cover
Oh,
Tucson. I said, how am I supposed to do that with only 35 reporters? Well, now we have 24 news staffers, including myself, the entire newsroom, not just the metro staff, and we have 5 reporters, covering metro news. It's a lot different because the economics of journalism are different. Same challenges, same elation when we meet them.
that's a good word.
Same sense of responsibility to the community, and it's fun.
But that reminds me of Mary Coulter, the Fred Harvey designer, and her favorite project supposedly was the La Posada in Winslow. No, that's you can tell a Winslow person, and my mother grew up there, and so I'm
Oh,
because we say the La Posada because no reason. But when it was going to close, she said there is such a thing as having lived too long. And I don't feel that in life, but I understand it from time to time. And I would assume that that's a little bit of there's got to be some ruefulness in
oh
having
yeah.
been in it for so long.
Well, but put it this way, we didn't know how good we had it. We didn't. We we were blessed, and still are blessed at the Star, because great journalists, often like to live in Tucson, Arizona, and so we end up punching above our weight because we have, you know, really these fantastic people who just want to live in Tucson and pursue their profession here, and we're very fortunate in that regard.
That's lovely. And you brought Paul Turner through our lives
Yes, I
among
did.
among some of the luminaries.
Yeah, yeah, he's a fantastic writer, that guy, and what a character. Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. He was dust dry. And I remember one time saying, "Oh, it's Groundhog's Day." And he said, "I haven't gotten my cards out yet." He was
Oh boy. Yeah.
he was fun. And that reminded me of Mark Turner.
Oh.
And I remember having a drink with him at Temple of Music and Art. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
place still around?
Not by that name, I don't believe anymore.
Oh, okay. But you
Y-
remember it.
I do. I remember going there. Yeah.
Yeah, great place.
Yes, it was.
And Cushing Street, I don't think is Cushing Street anymore.
It's the Coronet, and it's
Oh,
wonderful.
oh,
It's
good.
still wonderful. And I loved that place then, and I love it now. Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's
What else did you and do you? What other
well,
places are?
the Arizona Inn. If
Amen.
I ever wanted to, you know, uh, take somebody to for a drink or a dinner at a special place, that's where I would always go. And in the intervening years, when I was living in San Francisco or Seattle or Montana, anytime I came to Tucson, I, you know, if I could, I'd stay at the Arizona Inn, and it's just always meant a lot to me. Great place.
Oh yeah, and cool. That's a. I think I've only stayed there once or twice, but I hang out there as often as I can.
Yeah.
And but I had a great lunch with you at is it Augustine Kitchen?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
Uh-huh.
a neat place.
Well, that whole Mercado development is fantastic. I mean, Dave was stunned. I hadn't obviously was didn't exist when I was here before,
Yeah.
and thrilled with it when I came back. It's really great. There's some wonderful stores in there, and I love Safe Kitchen is fun, and there's a good coffee shop, which I'm an addict, so it's important. So
Get a fix in a nice place
yeah.
as well. Um, what else? What others? The shanty, is that still around?
Oh yes. Oh
Is
yes, it is.
it?
It is.
Have you been
Uh,
back?
Well, yeah, I've been back. I've been in, but I'm no longer a nightly denizen as I was, but back in the day. But yeah, it's still there and looks remarkably similar to what it looked like then.
You know what? I'm going to break a confidence because the person's not here to defend himself. It's Meissner. When I left, I guess, to Flag, he wrote a wonderful story, fiction obviously, about being at the shanty and drinking and getting really deep in his cups because I was leaving. And he was heartbroken in the story. And an old Tana Odom next to him turned to him and said, how bad do you want to go with her? And in the story, Meissner said, I'd give anything. And the guy said, make sure that's true. And he stuck by his answer. And the apparently was some kind of, I don't know, he had powers, the guy in the story.
Shaman.
And thank you, shaman. And Steve blinked and blacked out. And when he came to again, he was encased in a little storyteller. You know, the mudhead figures in the
Yeah.
and was going to go with me in this form. When he gave me the story, it was with a little mudhead storyteller figure, which I
That's
still have in our
that's
great room
fabulous.
today. And I
Well,
always wished he could publish it somewhere. It was a magnificent piece, but everything he did was magnificent. That was just one more.
he was a great guy.
He
He really
really
was.
was. Yeah. Yeah, you've known a lot of luminaries. Speaking of, my favorite book of yours is Cowboy Way. Would you be willing to grace us with anything from that? Because other people besides me should get to hear.
Well, sure. Um, I,
Thank you.
there's a couple of little things in here I could read. If that's is that okay?
I'd love it. I would love it, love it, love it. Thank you.
I would just, but by way of explanation, this book is a nonfiction book called The Cowboy Way: Seasons of a Montana Ranch, not Arizona, by dint of the fact that's where I was living at the time. But I spent a year on a 100,000-acre cattle ranch as a hand at age 43, which damn near killed me. There's a reason there aren't a lot of old cowboys around.
Although
And
Yellowstone would give a lie to that, but go ahead.
yeah, and anyway, loved it, and it was a life-changing experience, and I wrote a book about it. And so I used some poems and small prose packages to split chapters, and here's one of them that I wrote. It's called A Place to Put Things. Stalls where horses, dead now 50 years, ate oats grown in forgotten fields, are stalls still, rough notched and square nailed. Doors hang on hand forged hasps and hinges, harness yoke and bridle with mended rein remaining. Stalls still filled with things left idle, a flathead six that knew too much of heat and cold and country, swather wheels that turned on ground that turned from range to barley, drive shafts welded shut to pound steel posts, rat-chewed canvas dams, fencing pliers rusted open, 15 shovel handles busted. Hip roof stops only half the sky now, so this became a place to put things halfway cared about. Sun and snow and bird shit fall on floorboards ricked and gaunt as an old cow's backbone. No love is made in the loft, nothing up there, unless you count dented irrigation pipe and the rear end of an Alice Chalmers no person living on this outfit ever drove. Still good, but long ignored. New things break quickly, old things get older, fall from favor. Purpose leaked away with someone's fated plan to turn work and land to cash, buy a pretty dress for a red-headed daughter gone. 90 years in the lee of a little hill in the belts somehow made this old. Knapweed pushes through knotholes on the north wall. Deer still come in the evenings to find spilled grain. The new tractor spends nights elsewhere. Horses graze the hillsides, and the stalls no longer hold them. This one,
Thank you for that.
oh, sure. You got time for another one?
Oh,
Or,
yeah,
well,
absolutely.
there's a couple here. This one is just a little prose passage, and it's dated July 14th, which gives you an idea of the season. Bill, that was the boss, took pity on us today, or rather the weather did. A rainstorm left the cut hay too wet to bale, so we got this Sunday afternoon off. We'd been haying on the Gurwell, which was it was originally a homesteaded by somebody named Gurwell, which is why that plot of
Oh.
land was called the Gurwell. And seeing the tree line of the Smith River had been driving me crazy. The fields were singing with grasshoppers, and I knew that the brown trout had to be feasting with the gusto of Paul Prudhomme eating popcorn shrimp. So about 7 o'clock, I put on cut-off Levi's, old tennis shoes, and a t-shirt, tossed my rod in the GMC, and drove down to the stackyard on the riverside of Gurwell. It was a short stroll down the bluff and through Elmer Hansen's pasture to the river. The mosquitoes were murderous, and I didn't care. The thrum of hoppers was constant, and every 20 seconds or so I would hear fish splash noises that ranged from delicate to the sound of a bowling ball being dropped into a bathtub. I am not a particularly good fly fisherman, and I did not need to be. The browns were big and jumped wild as spurred broncs, and I caught more of them than anyone needs to on a summer evening. I fished until the deepest part of dusk was turning to night, keeping only the last 2 pounds of dinner with a yellow belly and wide dark spots across its back. I fried it with butter and garlic and green onions and fat slices of an enormous meadow mushroom I found on the way back to the truck, bigger than the trout and just as firm and pink. I drank 2 Miller beers and wished for this one night to come back to me one more time, perhaps late in my 5th decade when I would need it just as much as I had tonight.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Anyway.
Oh, have you gone back?
Oh, I
You
go back
s-
every year.
do you really?
Oh yeah. And the great thing was I had a heck of a time talking this rancher into letting me do this. I mean, uh, I wrote him a letter explaining the project. I had a book contract that I was going to write a first-person book about being a cowboy because I always wanted to know what it was really like. And he threw it away. And so I wrote him another one. And when he got that, he took it to his stepmother, who was kind of the matriarch of the family, and said, "What do I do with this guy?" And she said, "Oh, you ought to talk to him. Who knows?" And but he didn't get around to it. And finally, I called him, and he said, "You better come up here. I'll talk to you." So I drove the 90 miles up there and uh, sat down and with him in the cab of this semi. He was hauling a couple of cows, and we sat there. And he said, "What do you know about ranch work?" And I said, "I don't know shit." And he said, "Well, I'm glad you said that. I already knew it." And I thought, "Great, this is going well." And he said, "Now you wouldn't be one of those tree huggers, would you?" And now I'm getting a little irritated. And I said, "I got a few splinters in my chest and I'm proud of it." And he said, "Well, guess what? So do I." He said, "This place, I take care of it. I use as few chemicals as I can get away with." He said, "I take care of the ground. I don't overgraze it because it's my family's heritage and it's my paycheck. And I don't need any pink ass scientists from the state coming in here telling me how to do it." And I thought, well, actually, maybe I like this guy a little bit. And
Oh,
so then he turned to me and he said, "Look," he said, "if you don't work out as a hand, you're down the road." I said, "It's all I can ask." And I said, "When do I start?" And he said, "Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock." And and I did.
whoa.
And Bill Galt ended up becoming one of my very dearest friends in life. I mean, he's we couldn't be more different in background and politics and everything else, but we are close friends, and I admire him. He's a great man, and we get along. We see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, and
God, and that says a lot for
so
you and I suppose for him. But I love that. I don't know you as well as I could, but I know that there are a whole bunch of wonderful stories you have that we have not touched. And I'm going to hope that you will consent to come back at some point. Will
oh,
you?
you're so kind. It's. I'm not a native Arizonan like you, but I do love this place, and it's a real honor to be on your podcast.
Oh, you're so kind. Well, and I've probably said to you, Arizonans are not about where you're born. It's the people who come and get it, respond to it in their bones. And you are my friend in Arizona.
Well, Lisa,
So,
thank you so much.
thank you.
All right.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blatton. And I'm Dana Cooper.